Sometimes leadership means realizing the mission stopped being about you a long time ago. I'm Navira Walkowitz, class of 99. Long Blue Leadership starts now. Mark Clifford, welcome to Long Blue Leadership.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know, we could jump right in, but before I do, I have to just talk about this. And I had to write this down to make sure I didn't miss it. Boxing team captain, obviously. Three-time Wing Open champ, three-time regional champ, three-time National Collegiate Boxing Association All-American, and the national champion of the NCBA your senior year.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that's just as a cadet. Then you went on to serve 20 years in the Air Force as a logistics readiness officer. You're commanding and you were leading squadrons. In addition to that, on the higher education side, assistant dean at Grand Canyon University in sports business.
Yes. Yeah. I ran the sport management program when I first got there, probably a year after I got there, just kind of get my feet wet with higher ed, and then was elevated to the assistant dean of the College of Business. And so it was fun. It was amazing. And it was very different from what you're used to in the military, because I try to come in with a little bit of military mindset, but it's a civilian institution. So, just a little bit different, just bringing myself there and see what happens.
Well, I guess what it shows is that you're not afraid to jump in and do, something new. And I think we'll probably discover that in the conversation today. So maybe where we can start is the fact that you are back at USAFA as the boxing coach. You're here now running and leading the program that shaped you.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it. I mean, I love the program. I came in as the academy. Went to the prep schools on the 5-year plan, like some of us. Need a little extra help, a little extra year. I took my time and really understand that I came in. I'm such a competitor. And I was playing basketball at the prep school. Came in my freshman year, hoping to be on the basketball team. Worked really hard, did all the things the coaches asked me to do. Still sat the bench. And so, like a lot of cadets, like every cadet, even our women now, have to take boxing class, as a mandatory class.
When did that start? What years? Do you remember?
I want to say 2017 is when the women started.
Okay.
It's always been instituted for our men. And
right.
So my freshman year, I did really well in the class, to the point where I had to box our assistant coach at the time, Ray Carger, for my GR, my test.
Wow. Did you get an A?
I got an A.
Okay.
But it hurt.
For him?
Heck no. He was the one punching me. He busted me up pretty good, but I still got the A in the class. And coaches, and same system I use today, is trying to find cadets in boxing class that are competitors, that are looking to do more than just be either a cadet or on the team that they're on, or ride the bench. And I got tired of riding the bench, sitting behind a couple of folks. And so sophomore year, coach came and said, "Hey, you still interested in boxing?" I quit basketball, went to boxing, and the rest is history.
The rest is, you didn't look back at all.
No. It was. It's hard to look back because it's shaped. I think we all kind of think back to our cadet years. I know I do sometimes, right. and kind of reminisce about what if. I remember walking across the street one time, and my brother was a year ahead of me in class of 96 on the football team, and I was walking across the street as a freshman to basketball practice, and ran across Coach Fisher DeBerry, and he said, "Hey, Clifford, when you come play football with me?" And so you always think about opportunities that kind of cross your path, and I think about what would have happened if I would have done something different. I don't know if the story would be as successful as it is based off of what I've learned in boxing and where I am today. And so I'm very thankful for the program. I'm thankful for Coach Eddie Wishers, who shaped me, was a father figure for us when we were here. And it's tough being a cadet out here by yourself. And so you got to have allies and friends and people and mentors. And he was definitely one for me. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to know, he saw you in class and discovered that talent. How are you finding potential nowadays in the cadets for the program? Because, you just happen to have the women who had defended a national champion, won it. So 2 years now have been the NCBA national champs.
I think it's a couple of things I look for. One is, how scrappy are you? I think it was easy at Grand Canyon University to find, the era of COVID and the resiliency wasn't quite the same as what I remember when I was here as assistant coach, coaching as a captain and as a major as well. The cadets are different. Their mentality is different. And so to kind of make it simple, I'm looking for dogs. I'm looking for cadets that are excited to fight,
right.
are not afraid to box, aren't afraid to get hit, love the intensity of the sport. And I can shape that. And, the potential piece of that is, can they throw a pretty good punch And can they take a punch? And they're not, they're not jumping out of the ring with it. And that kind of translates into what we're looking for with all of our officers and all officer candidates, is making sure that they can stay there and take a punch, collect themselves, and then go back and execute, right? And so that's what I'm looking for. And I've tried to find those in classes. And, a lot of times it's a lot of the athletes.
Right.
Because they're recruited here for other reasons well, and other sports or whatever. Right. And they want to be competitive. And as a freshman and a sophomore, it's tough because you got juniors and seniors who have experience on the team.
Right.
They're out there performing, and you're sitting on the bench. Well, I'll get you in a sport that you don't have to sit the bench.
That's right.
And it's top person wins.
So when I think about the team that you formulate and you grow and they continue to hone in their craft, is it always the athletes that you've that maybe have been bench warmers, or have you found the diamonds in the rough that maybe have never fought in their lives and that kind of surprised you that have risen to the top?
There are a lot of diamonds in the rough. There are a lot of, but back to what I said, there's a lot of cadets that come here that aren't necessarily on a Division I. Right? We're lucky because we have 25% of our population at the academy are Division I athletes.
Right.
But there are so many other young cadets that are just as competitive, just as athletic, and they're looking for something else. And how do you give them something, right? And it's when they get to come to the Wing Open and see their classmates in the center of Clune Arena, and that thing is filled with all the rest of the cadet wing.
Yes, and grads and community.
The community, and they put the floor seats right there. You can sit ringside.
Wow.
It's an amazing thing. And the cadets are like, how do I be a part of that? And my philosophy is simple. If you enter the Wing Open and you win, then you're the person that represents us for regionals and nationals. There's no favoritism because I quote unquote recruited Navir as a freshman. Now she's a senior. Well, if that senior gets her butt whooped, I'm taking the freshman.
That's right.
And so it's a very fair system. And so you find those diamonds in the rough. I'll give you one, that two-time national champ. She's our team captain this year, Elise Bell. I don't think she's ever fought in her life.
Wow.
And when I walked in the gym last year, my first year, I just noticed her work ethic. And it's just, how do you just pour into somebody like that and refine that gem to become a national champ? And last year, I just love to tell her story because last year, I believe in regionals and nationals, every first round she lost 5-0 to the judges. She was losing.
Wow.
And she won every bout after.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's just, you find those, and I'm hoping to find more of those young cadets that just have that same energy, that resilience, that toughness, and courage, really, and willingness to do what we ask them to do.
So were you like that growing up? Were you someone that had this mindset of, a work ethic and, scrappy, before even getting into boxing? Were you like that as a kid?
I was just a competitor. And that's my father. That's my mother. That's my grandmother. My father's side, who was very, everything had to be put into a place. My father, was born in 1929, in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Went to Howard University, ROTC. This is post-Tuskegee.
Okay.
And entered the Air Force through ROTC in 1949.
Wow.
And so his thing was academics always.
Yes.
But I had a brother who was a year ahead of me. And it was academics for both of us, but how do you best the guy that's right next to you? That was always just, my brother's name's Larry. This is what Larry and I always did. Whether it was girls, sports, school, right?
Yes.
It was always competition.
You drove each other.
We drove each other. And it was amazing. You don't realize that until you're older, until you go, yeah, that's what that did for me.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so I think I was always just one that was always a competitor and liked to be best. I wasn't always the best, but I liked to strive to be. And so that was just kind of how I was shaped.
So was your dad very excited when you were recruited to the academy? Is that correct? Or
my dad kind of wanted me to go more so than maybe I wanted to go at the time.
When did you realize, because obviously you were on the 5-year plan, right? So I think you had a couple of times to make a decision I'm good, but you stayed. So when was it that it really connected with you that this is where I want to be and I want to serve? Probably
after my sophomore year.
Okay.
Yeah, because my first 3 years, I wanted to play basketball so bad. I was trying to recruit myself. This is when you had to go send out your videotapes.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You there with me?
Yes. Paper, emails, not the thing back then. Yes. All paper.
All paper. Mm-hmm. It was the email. I'm trying to send videotapes out. Spring break at the prep school, I think I went to Cal Riverside and tried to meet with the coach and try to drop off my tape. That's how bad I wanted to play basketball.
Right.
And then I found success in boxing, and it was, I think, why go anywhere else? You start to realize and get older, like, you're going to have a job when you graduate. I don't have to look for a job.
Right.
I don't have to go out there and struggle. I'm going to get what I want to do out of the military, and it's going to be a 5-year thing for me, and then I'm out.
Right.
Yeah, look at this
and
now, right?
It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. And so I think that's what it was. I think it was my sophomore year, and I was going, my grades were terrible. Mm-hmm. I could say that now. But no one's ever asked me for my GPA.
No.
And I still was able to get a doctorate. Like, there's things that you happen in your life that you'll still be able to achieve success, even though you weren't as great as it before. And so, I think it was just the realization of, man, I could do this.
Yes.
I could do this.
So in that journey of, wanting to play basketball so bad, finding a space and a place that really you started to hone in on yourself in boxing, and then, went into the Air Force, you were leading, what have you found out about yourself in a leadership perspective, like through those different situations, whether you ended up not playing basketball or something that went really well for you, like a national champ?
I think just overall leadership was the ability for me to impact others to be successful. And I think that's what I took out of boxing, because it is an individual sport,
yes,
but it's very team-oriented. We don't put banners on the wall that say national champion without a team mentality to make sure that our teammate left and right of us are also excelling. And so in a small sport like boxing, at a time when I boxed, there was 12 weight classes. Like, you're boxing the guy above a weight and below a weight because you're trying to make that person better. Iron sharpens iron.
Right.
I was 172, 175 pounder boxing the heavyweight because in my mind was, no one's going to hit me as hard as this guy's going to hit me.
That's right.
And so if I can stand and last with this guy, I can last with anybody in college boxing. And that flowed for me into the military and part of my philosophy was, how do I elevate everybody else? Because I realized here at the Academy, it's not about us, right? We're in the people business to make sure people around us are elevated, have things that they need, resources they need to make sure that they're doing the job to the best of their ability, because then the unit does better. Team. Right. The wing does better. Team. It's not about us individually. And so I think for me, being able to translate that out of boxing into my Air Force career was part of what shaped me as a leader to make myself successful.
Did you find yourself seeing if anyone could take a punch from you in your Air Force uniform, or how did you do that?
Well, I punched with my words when I got out.
Okay, all right.
You can't put your hands on people.
Of course.
Without, back in the, early days, it's
a little different then, maybe.
Yeah, I think the chief excused me from a meeting, and the meeting was back behind the fuel watershed. I can't remember.
Fair enough.
There was some wall-to-wall training that was going on with some other individuals, but hey, the chief said it was good. It said, LT, I need you to stay in the office. Roger that, chief.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
yes.
No, you don't put your hands on people. But it is, I used to have to tell people, don't let the smile fool you. I like to have a good time. I enjoy myself. I enjoy the people that I'm around. But also, I know our job is very serious, and I was very serious about our job. And so part of my leadership philosophy was always, my dad's thing was the golden rule, treat people the way that you want to be treated.
Right.
And there's some things here at the Academy that I didn't love, so I took away from, I'm not going to be that type of person, into accountability, holding people accountable, myself included. And so even at the Academy as a knucklehead cadet, 'cause I did goofy stuff, I'd be the first one to say, yeah, it was me. Like, I'd take my lumps, march my tours,
right.
take my Form 10s, do what you needed to do, but you survive the place and you learn from it, and it shapes who you are as a leader. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm curious because I think about, you just said, I like to have fun, but don't let my smile fool you. When you think about boxing and the mentality you have to literally stand across somebody and hit someone or take a punch, or, be hit back. How do you train that kind of mindset? Because I have to think it parallels a lot with the fact that we are developing war fighters. How do you train that?
Yeah, that's kind of the bottom line of the boxing class. It's not about finding championship boxers. The boxing class is about exactly what you just outlined. It's how do you, as an individual, put a strategy and plan together, knowing that you have an adversary across the ring that's going to hurt you. Like the object of the game is to punch you. Pros is more so to hurt you.
Right.
College boxing amateurs more to score more points than you. Bottom line, I'm trying to hurt you. And that mentality of how do you compose yourself, do the things that we asked you to do, A, defend yourself, B, have an offensive plan. And even if you're losing, how do you compose yourself, right? Part of that warrior spirit is making sure that we always have that mindset of how we're going to achieve and beat our adversaries. And I think that's the bottom line of the boxing class. Is just how do we do that? So the mindset is exactly that. Is just you're going to get punched, but can you punch that person more than they punch you? Can you put some other things in place that I give you, tools that I give you, A, head movement, defensive movement, to take those punches away, right, from a strategic standpoint, and then be offensive, and then score your points,
right?
And so that's the mentality that we try to have with our boxers, is to make sure that, hey, this is a sport where you're going to get hit. Once you get past that hurdle, it's good, right? It's that how do you work on all these other skill sets to make you better than your opponent? And if the other person's just as skilled as you are, what's the edge that we give you? And I think that's part of our mental preparation that we do, as well as our physical preparation.
So I think about you shaping that for the team, both the men and women. How was that shaped for you? Was that your coach at the time, Eddie Wishers? Was that someone in your family? Who were those mentors in your life?
For me, it was Eddie Wishers and Ray Carger. So Ray Carger was an enlisted assistant coach, and he was a 4-time, I think, All Air Force heavyweight champ. Those two were instrumental for me, especially during my career times, my formative time as a boxer, because I would work out a lot with Coach Carger, because the same mentality I had with the heavyweight. If this big joker can hit me and I can take the punch, but he's also going to teach me some things, right? And Coach Wishers was the same. It was the mental piece. His thing was know when to turn on the hot water, and it was because I was a goofball. Have a good time, enjoy practice, have fun with the guys. But when you step in that ring, turn the hot water on. It's all about business. So then when you step out, you turn it back on to cold. Yeah. Go back to goofing off and doing the things that you do. But you get in there, it's all about business. And so how do you train your mind to go like, man, I got to go to war right now.
Right.
And I had a preparation before I got into the ring, and certain things that I did that helped me mentally prepare before I jumped in there. But
what did you do?
Again, it was a Walkman. The CD Walkman. The CD Walkman.
Yes.
And I couldn't jump around too much because it was skip.
Yes.
The CD was skip. I had the little baby headphones, had my little do-rag on, and I would just zone out on some music.
Okay.
I would zone out on music until it was time for me to get up and do my physical warm-up with some jumping, some rope, shadow boxing, and maybe a little hand mitts with the coach before I jumped in the ring. But yeah, it was I couldn't jump around too much.
It would skip. That's true. Now they don't have to have anything connected. Just put in their ears.
I know it's crazy. I'm kind of jealous about it, to be honest, but they'd be killing me.
So I imagine when you're coaching, and I'm saying I imagine because I've not coached ever to this level. I coach my son's little league basketball team, but which is a whole different level of coaching. But what I find curious is, have you ever found yourself in the feeling of, because you know how it felt when you win, when you lose, and when you watch your cadets going through that, how does that affect you as a coach?
Yes. I'm learning to not ride the emotion like they do, but I definitely did my first year. I think as an assistant coach, so I was assistant coach with Coach Wishers, 5 years total as active duty officer. And that was different because I was on the sideline. He was the main guy. I was the support guy. But when you're the head guy and you're the one that giving the kid advice, giving them the strategy, and then really I felt it at nationals, especially when we started winning with our women. Our first female won in the first half of the day. A freshman, I don't know if she was expected to win. She didn't expect to win, but in our hearts, in our minds, we knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the motion, because I know how hard they work
Right.
and what it takes to get your hand raised, because I came up short my first 2 years
Mm-hmm.
when I'm the guy standing with my hands down and the other guy's hand is raised. And then get my hand raised my senior year was the most amazing feeling. I rode that same emotion when we lost, when we won. And I was worn out and tired. And so I'm trying to train myself not to try to ride that emotion, but it's hard. Like, you know, I want to be in there with them, and I feel the same things that they feel because I went through that same process they went through. And so it's interesting dynamic because I'm trying to peel myself away from it, but I just haven't detached yet. I think I'm still emotionally and mentally driven by what happens with our cadets. And it's a weird feeling.
I imagine as a leader, that's probably a common challenge you have because you care so deeply about your team, like family, that you do get emotional, right? And that might even be one of the sharpest knives in your kit. It's just, you know, how you employ it, I guess.
Yeah, you know, that reminds me of a really tough situation when I was a commander in Korea. Had to hold somebody accountable, but that person, part of the discipline action was taking a stripe, right? Blah, 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 blah. The things that happen for something negative.
Right.
But he's such a good person. And it was a first mistake, but it was a big one. And what that led to was a person dropping rank, but then hitting high-year tenure and couldn't test for the next stripe. And so I really struggled with that and had really tough conversations with not only the group chief, but my commander and my chief and my first sergeant. Is this really the right thing for this individual? I think ultimately for good order and discipline, yes. I think emotionally, right, because it was a small unit. We were in Korea. He had his wife there. I had my family there. And so they became friends, close enough because it's such a small knit group. And that's the type of organization that I love to have, because I think if you almost play that disappointment role or daddy role or whatever, however you want to characterize it, that leadership style, but it was, man, you really got to depend on your brother and sister, because if you let that person down, man, you let us all down.
Yes.
And so that's part of my leadership style, especially in Korea, because I took over for a commander that was let go and fired, and so there was a whole cultural change that I had to do. So that was don't let the smile fool you happened, right? And you just had to make sure that you held people accountable. But that was one of the tough ones where emotionally you're going, man, am I making the right call? Organizationally, absolutely. Personally, for that individual, it was tough, and it was tough.
How do those moments stretch you as a leader? I find that fascinating because you have such a warm and, you know, fun personality about you. I mean, I think when you think about command and the decisions you've had to make at different times, both in the ring, out of the ring, in uniform, et cetera, how did you grow as a leader?
I think we all grow every day. I think for me, I lean a lot on my mentors. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I learned that early in my career that it took me a while because I was a knucklehead, but it took me a while to understand that I could pick up the phone and ask somebody for help, and they're going to help you.
Right.
Because this is an organization, our Air Force, our Space Force is all about making sure people are successful. We don't set people up for failure. Why?
Right.
Because if one individual fails, the team fails.
And everyone fails.
Yeah. So I think for me, making those tough calls was challenging because of my leadership style. I think it was, I want people to get along. I want our team to meet the standard of excellence, if not exceed it. I want us to be always on that front edge because I'm a competitor.
Yes.
And I want to be the best. But also that comes with accountability and tough decisions. And I think when you have to be in the moment, make some of those tough decisions, it's you just have to go back and reflect, and you have to lean on people that do the same thing. I had a great group of fellow squadron commanders in my first command in Hawaii. And
you had some really terrible bases to go to, huh?
Shoot, who you telling? Hey, that's why I stayed in for 20. That's why I stayed in for 20. The plan was 5.
Oh, yes.
20 happened because I had some great people around me, and the bases weren't bad either. And so, and my family loved it. We some rough assignments, but it ended up being great.
Yes.
But I can lean on my fellow squadron commanders when I had some tough times. Whether it was just a, bit session or if it was a leadership lesson. Most of us were about the same age group. I think one or two of the commanders was a year or two ahead of me. But it was just, we weren't competing with each other. We were making sure we were all competing together and being successful together. Yeah.
I think about that theme of being a competitor, and I remember you telling me about your brother and your dad. So has there been a continued, competition in how you guys have done in your careers and in life, or have you leaned back to your dad like, hey, Dad, so how do you feel? Like, how about this?
No, we unfortunately lost my dad a couple years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. 94 years, an amazing life. I found some old pictures of him and Chappie James, which is pretty cool.
Oh my goodness,
and
that
talk
is
about
really
history
cool.
and legacy. But no, I think my brother, I found out so my brother left after his sophomore year. He didn't finish the academy. He stuck around here another year, so my sophomore year. And I really came to find out, although we competed against each other our entire lives, he was my number one fan. I didn't even know it. And it was like, he would tell me stories of, I think my first wing open, maybe my second wing open, my first wing open sophomore year, that he, for the first time, said some cuss words next to my dad because they were in the stands because he was cheering for me. And it was just funny to hear, like, we're grown-ups, but you can't cuss in front of my dad.
Exactly. You don't say those things.
Yeah, you don't say those things. And like, he was like, oh, no, Dad's going to get me. But no, I think since then, it's been a really supportive relationship. And like, anything that I do, he'll call me as soon as we're competing at anywhere as a coach now, ask how we did, how the cadets did, and that he said he's proud of me. And I'm proud of him too. And he's doing real estate in Southern California with his wife and his family. So it was weird to see that or hear that from him, because it was always like, you're always like, looking over your shoulders. Like, who's going to get who? Yes. Like it was awesome. It was kind of cool.
I love that. And I'm just thinking, I'm sorry to hear of your dad passing, but I'm sure throughout those years, you had many calls to him about, some of those decisions you had to make in uniform. And I'm sure he was extremely proud of you making it a career.
Yeah. I think, I think he also was surprised I lasted as long as I did. Just because I was so against it early on in my career. But no, I'm super proud. And it was always good to come home and just kind of share some stories with him. And he would reflect back on his stories. And he was a fighter pilot. And so just some of his fighter pilot stories and, the things that shaped him. You talk about moments in career and moments that shaped his career. It's just cool to have somebody like that in a different era. That can share the same
different challenges,
but also the same.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like I think that's what's interesting with the military. It's like, and coming back as the academy is a perfect example. Like there's challenges that we have that are kind of the same that we've had probably 15 years ago when I was here.
Almost like a cycle.
It's a cycle, So it's like, now you have new leaders. How do they, work through these different challenges differently than what we did before? Not that we need to repeat history, but at the same time, you know what I'm saying? It just becomes a cyclical thing that was, how do we work through
How do we navigate that?
The same stuff,
I want to go back to something you said, and I think it probably plays into some of the cadets that you work with or help to coach. You talked about how you weren't sure you wanted to go to the academy and stay, and the idea of quitting is where I'm really kind of going. What advice have you received to help you not quit or to kind of push through when you wanted to quit? And have you seen that with cadets, and how are you navigating that?
Yes and yes. I think the best advice I received when I was thinking about quitting was just really ask yourself why. What's the purpose? And then where you're going to go. Like, what's the plan? And that's what was one of my Dad's themes was, especially when I got out and was looking to navigate civilian jobs. Make sure you don't leave something unless you got something else in your other hand. And so I was like, how do you really focus in on being the best at where you're at, right? Before you even think about stepping somewhere else. And I had to reflect on that, especially as a cadet. Was I really being the best as where I was? As a freshman and sophomore, I could tell you no. Because I wanted to do so many other things, and it had anything to do with the academy. Not nothing to do with the academy, but you know what I'm saying. I was looking at.
You were very focused on basketball.
I was focused on other things. Until I realized like I could really be the best at all the things. And it's a balance here at the academy, right? Academically, militarily, athletically. I wanted to be the best athletically. How do I go win a national championship as a boxer? And so I found out that you've got to prioritize, which is right? We all had to do that. We all have to do that. We
That's
continue to do
right.
that in our lives today.
Mm-hmm.
And so my priority was boxing because I wanted to be great at athletics. Academics because I knew I can't get out of this place unless academics met the standard.
And you couldn't box here if you
Exactly.
you weren't here.
You're right on that. And I couldn't do that without the academics,
That's
which is
right.
always my dad's thing. Like, you don't do anything else unless your academics are where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly was, okay, well, for me, militarily, I can make the military stuff work. It wasn't my priority. Maybe I should have balanced that a little bit more. So I share that with our cadets is how do you balance those things that want to make you successful? The one thing I tell the cadets now is because I've been in the civilian world, it's tough. Like if you leave here and you got to navigate A, go getting a degree, and then B, trying to find a job which meets your standard and the standard of living that you want to have, it's going to be difficult. It's not. And so it's still the cadet's choice.
Yes.
And we've talked to them about like, all right, make sure you put things in place to make yourself successful. But I try to give them the same advice. I said, there's no other place outside of the 3 military academies. We're going to go through a really tough time. You're going to have really awesome friends. You're going to have a great experience. And oh, by the way, you're going to have a job when you graduate.
Right.
With free medical and dental. Like, that stuff's not cheap.
Yes.
So, I think I share those things with the cadets, especially when they're talking about leaving. And then I like to share a lot. I try not to go back to, back in my day with them.
Because our day was a long time ago now.
Well, you didn't have to say it out loud. I think we know that. I don't think you had to say it. But it's true. There are still some challenges out there, but they have to navigate the waters. And there's some things that they do differently now at the academy than we did when we were at the academy. But this is a really cool place. It's a great place to be from. It's a great place to put on a resume. When you decide to get out of the military after your obligation, it's a great place because they're going to give you a job and occupation. You get to fly jets if that's what you want to do.
Right.
There's so many opportunities here that the cadets have.
Yes.
And I overload them with that because I think it is an amazing place. And the reason why I come back to it, because I think so highly of what it's done for me and shaped me. How can I do that for others and mentor others to make sure that they have a similar experience, but a successful one either way, no matter what their story is.
Can you share an example of a cadet that surprised you from a leadership perspective because of their work with you and their time in the ring?
Well, it's hard. So I'm only in my second year. I've got a couple of seniors this year. Elise Bell's one of them. Her fiance, Kamari Jackson, is a cadet I met when I was here. He was starting his junior year, he's coming off a neck injury. And I challenged him because he's hanging around the gym. I didn't know why. Now I know why. I thought it was boxing. It wasn't. It was Elise. But I'm good with that. I would whisper in Elise's ear to try to get him back because he was really good as a freshman. Then he got hurt. But he's another young man that's just took leadership by the horn. Came in back this year. I challenged him to be at a certain weight. He's like, Coach, I'm coming back. I want to win it. Met the weight. I didn't think he was going to make the weight. His first semester, fall semester, he was a squadron commander.
Wow. Plate's full.
Plate is full, but still made it down. Was one of those, he wasn't our team captain, but he was a team captain.
Yes.
It was just one of those.
Leading without rank, right?
Leading without
title.
Rank. He didn't need it.
Yep.
But he just had that, he has that aura about him. And I wouldn't say he surprised me. I just think it was just one of those success stories where you're going, man, I'd love to have a team full of KJs that just, and we do. They lead in their own way. I've got some quiet ones. I've got some vocal ones. I've got ones, our senior this year, our heavyweight, the one in the wing open. He did it with his work ethic. That Elise Bell, she leads with her work ethic. There's different ways of leading in the gym, and I try to harness that and then elevate those that are doing it, making sure the team sees what they're doing. There's a young lady, she's very quiet, prior enlisted, 2-time national champ now. She's won 3 wing opens. She's going to probably get her 4th as a senior. She's going to be our team captain this year, but she's quiet, but it brings her out of her shell. Forces her to use her voice a little bit more.
Right.
Because she does it quietly with her work ethic in the corner.
Yes.
But you all see her because she's always in the ring and she's always working. So I wouldn't say they surprised me just yet. I haven't had any surprises just yet, but I've had some that have solidified my resolve and why I came back, because they understand where they're going. They're learning what leadership is, because you don't always have to vocally stand on the pedestal and be the person on top to be the leader. And I love that piece of this.
So I'm sure maybe this is a silly question, but obviously you had been assistant coach in the past. What made you come back as head coach?
It's a silly question up here.
Okay.
These cadets. No, this place is special. I love the athletic department. I mean, back to what it's done for me. I had the opportunity to come back as a young captain and work in the athletic department. Was an exec. Was able to get a doctorate degree out of this place. Was able to come back again.
Wow.
And be around the cadets to learn more from Coach Eddie Wishers. And I think all of those parts and pieces helped develop me, because it put me in positions where I was able to grab jobs and be in positions to be successful. I had no business picking up a squadron command the second time I was here, but I was able to pick up a squadron command,
right?
Because I had people pulling for me, pushing for me. And that's what you go back to, those, like you said before, what helped shape you, and that it's just the people around here that help shape me. And how do I come back and give back to an institution, to a department that really shaped me as an individual? And that's what I'm doing. I think I come back because I want to see the cadets who struggle like me, and I find them in class too, that are debating whether they want to be here or not, looking for something else to be a part of. And I always invite them to be part of the boxing family, because I know what boxing did for me and others who went through this program, that were competitive, that couldn't make another team or wasn't on a different team, that wanted to show their skill, that wanted to balance something from the academic side, because that is so stressful. Punching something's very stress relieving. There's something about
yes,
especially if I can punch somebody in the face in front of other people and not get in trouble. I was doing it. And so I think being able to come back and give that opportunity to other cadets and then watch them flourish with it and grow with it, I think is why I'm back. And so I'm thankful for the athletic department. I'm thankful for the academy. So how do I pay it forward? And this is my way of paying it forward.
Oh, I love that. Well, I want to ask you something that we ask our guests on this, because it's really about how you continue to hone your skills as a leader through all the journeys, right? In uniform, out of uniform, in the private sector, higher education, et cetera. What is something you do every day to be better as a leader?
Well, I think is internally, how do I have an impact, right? As a head coach in the athletic department, and I'm not an NCAA sport like some of our other coaches, how do I impact people around me and my sphere of influence? It's very different now than when you're an officer, when you're a commander, when you have an entire unit that you can have impact on. Mine are smaller. One, it's internally with my team, is how do I lead and impact my team? And so I want to make sure that I'm always prepared to support our cadets through practice, having a plan for them so that they know when they walk in the door what we're supposed to do. Because I think that's important from a discipline standpoint of knowing and understanding what I have to do when I get to the gym and what my end goal is. And I always come in for that mentally prepared, and then mentally preparing them for the rest of the season, because we have a long season. And then I always think about my sphere of influence. I'm in the athletic department on the physical education side. How do I make sure I am prepared for the other cadets that are in classes that aren't on the team, to make sure they have a positive experience in PE class, but also I make sure they know that I'm a grad. I make sure that they know I'm a retired old guy, because I think there's value in that, when they can always ask questions that are driven towards operational Air Force that aren't necessarily about this particular class. So I make sure I'm prepared for those cadets. And then how do I then allow myself to be available for the rest of the department? Not only the physical education department, but our athletic directors, and making sure that I'm a resource, because I've been here before.
Right.
I understand some things. I may not have all the answers, but I'm willing to help and support where it is. So I'm always preparing myself daily for the cadets and the staff and the folks around me, that my sphere of influence has at least the best part of me every time I come to work. And so I think daily for me, it's a mental preparation, but also, prepping for the day of from a leadership perspective, because my leadership role is very different now than when it was when you're active duty or when you're sitting at Grand Canyon University as a dean or assistant dean, right? Your influence is very different.
So mentally, you prepare yourself. What does that look like as far as like activity, right? So are you taking care of yourself physically so that you have the capacity to do more? I'm just curious, like, what does that look like when you say you're preparing yourself to be available?
I do a couple of things. I think in the morning when I get up and I have my cup of coffee, and my wife and I typically watch the news together, it is thinking about the impacts of what happens in our world, how that impacts our academy. I don't think there's very little ripple effect that gets to the cadet, but also understanding why what's happening in our world is important to a cadet. I always try to prepare myself for those conversations, just in case they come up. And they have come up in classes sometimes.
Right.
But it's, again, I just give my perspective more so than this is what the Air Force is asking you to do. I'm not trying to do that. Physically, I hit the gym. I work in a gym. So my wife says I have no excuse. Elise told me you better be in the gym using equipment. So I physically do that, and then I try to make sure I walk through our gym and put pieces together, equipment together, and making sure the equipment's in place and ready for our cadets. And sometimes I use the box and stuff. I got to stay sharp.
I was going to ask, how that you did with, what was his name? The assistant coach at the time? Ray
Carja?
Yes. Are you ever across in the ring with someone, with a cadet?
My first year I did. My last year I let the young captains and majors do that. I realized that my mind will say do something.
And your body?
And move out the way. I don't move out the way as quick as I used to, but I think I do.
Then you feel that you didn't.
Then I feel I didn't. I don't let the cadets know they get me, though. You never let the cadets know they got you.
That's funny. All right. I want to ask you one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
What's something, if you could have a conversation with young Mark as a cadet today, what would you tell yourself?
I think the one thing I would tell myself is trust the process. Be the best that you can be where you are, bloom where you're planted. And do that to the best of your ability. And then shake off the negativity and the nonsense. I had some great friends here, but also some friends that didn't want to be here either. And so you feed off that negativity. And I think that got into who I was, especially as a young cadet, some of that negativity that probably kept me from being my best in certain areas, especially academically, especially militarily. Because I think if I were able to do that, maybe my outcome probably would have been on the same trajectory, but also it would have been more positive experience.
Less painful for sure.
Yeah. You're not chasing other things. You're not trying to get your tape out to go recruit somewhere else.
Right.
You're happy where you are. You're doing the best that you can. And it's going to be challenging and tough. And understand that you're going to take some losses, but that's what this place is about. Right. It's not always going to be a win, because in life it's not always a win.
That's right.
And if you can bounce back from a loss, at some point it took me 2 years, and that third year I bounced back from a loss to get that W. Man, life becomes very, very easy.
Yes.
You kind of figure it out. So I think that's what I tell myself to prepare myself a little bit better.
No, that's excellent. What's something that we didn't talk about today that you would really like to make sure that we share?
Well, I think we kind of talked about it, family. My family, my wife's been my rock for almost 30 years. We're on 29 this year. We're going on 30. We've got 2 boys that say they don't want to be in the military. They don't want to move. My oldest son is not in the military. He's moved 3 times since he graduated college 2 years ago. And then the youngest one, who didn't want to do it, will join officer training school in July.
Congratulations.
So super proud. Yes. Yeah, he's taking the 8-week route, not the 5-year route. So I don't know if he's smarter or I don't know how to play that one. But, I can't say enough about making sure that your family supports what you do. I could not have been as successful or do the things that I was able to do in the Air Force without my wife, Elise, and my 2 boys, Caleb and Jaden, without their support, because there were some tough times when you're deployed and you're gone, and you just need that rock to make sure the household was good, so that you could focus on your job while you're gone and then be home when you're home.
Right.
And she made sure that we did that when we had the opportunities. And she also, no matter where we went, made sure it was a home. And so I'm thankful for that, because the boys always had a home versus places that we had to move to.
Right.
And like you said, we had some good ones, thankfully. So,
well, it sounds like you also have translated that, bringing that Elise has brought to your family, to your boxing family. I mean, I think when cadets are there, they're home away. This is home away from home, right? And maybe not all of them have father figures or leaders in their lives. And it sounds like you've kind of taken that mantle and you placed it right there.
Yeah, I've tried. I'm not. We talked about this before we started, but I'm gonna push them hard.
Yep.
I'm gonna make sure that they exceed that level of physicality and mentality that they think they can, because they will exceed it and be able to perform when it's time to perform. And I love it.
Well, Mark, this has been amazing. Coach Clifford, I mean, what you're doing at the program, I mean, started with you, right? Embedded in you, and now you're taking it to the next level. What I learned today in your leadership lessons are those things that you've battled with in the ring, you're bringing out in life, whether in uniform, out of uniform, and you're not only sharing it with those that have been directly on your team, but those that may join your team. You know, we just talked about those basic cadets. So what I really appreciate about you is you're willing to be there in that with them, celebrating their wins and helping them navigate those losses. So thanks for being an incredible leader, and thanks for being on Long Blue Leadership.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for investing your time and for joining us here on Long Blue Leadership. I encourage you to share this episode with others who are on their own leadership journeys. You can find this and all our conversations wherever you get your podcasts or at longblueleadership.org. Until next time, I'm Navir Walkowitz, Class of 99.
This Long Blue Leadership conversation was recorded on May 19, 2026.